Welcome to Nature's Neighbor. I am your host, Melanie Blankenship, sitting alongside my co-host, Mr. Josh Carmichael. And here we are on this beautiful, warm Monday, June 16th, 2025. Yeah, my car read 97 degrees.
Yeah, it is warm up here.
Yeah. Welcome to the North County there, the coastal boy.
I had a meeting up here before. I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what that's like. It just hugs you. You get out and it's just all over you.
You know what, though? It's like healing. It's like ripening. It's like, well,
summertime.
Yeah, just you better shower and because you don't want to smell right. But, it's like, it's all about that, transformation when the heat.
Season,
it
for
is.
sure. I love is like kickoff of summer.
Yes.
My birthday. Every year.
Happy birthday yesterday,
Middle of June,
Josh.
we did it. We made it through.
You're trying to catch me, but you haven't caught me yet, So
I'm slowing down, I guess, in my old age.
It's kind of funny. I never thought. We talked about this last show, but your birthday's on Father's Day, but always close to Father's Day, right?
Sure.
My birthday's either on or close to Mother's Day. So Mother, Father, we can always represent, and so, it's exciting to understand, the understandings of Mother, Father, right? It's important in every role. And, super honored yesterday to celebrate my husband, and just actually reflecting a little bit on that too, is the fact that not everybody has the ability to do it together, right?
Yeah.
But when you have the ability to co-parent with somebody that is parallel with you, has the same spiritual beliefs, although he does believe in aliens, I do not. So I'm just going to say,
drawing the line there,
drawing the line on the aliens. But we share a lot of the same, right? But yet we come from completely different cultures. And just shared that my mother-in-law is off to Europe for a month, and Europe is not my culture.
Yeah.
My culture is San Luis Obispo County, multiple generation, right? But also Hispanic culture is mine. And drastically different. My husband is drastically different, but yet we parent and we are spouses, which is, I know, very rare. I picked him in high school and I raised him. So, but at the same time, it's crazy for us to look back at our children and seeing how much fun it's been, how challenging it's been, how scary it's been, how still
all
to
the
this,
things,
still
kids.
Today, it's like, they're 22 and 19, and the fear is different, but it's still there. It's the fear of, did I give them enough? Did I teach them enough? Did I protect them enough? I'm just going to put it out there. My husband sucks at discipline.
Yeah.
And my saying in our house is like, dude, back me up. And he's like, you got this. And I'm like, but at the same time, we're on that same page. And to look at the importance of a father when it came to my children and where my kids are today, and reflecting yesterday of Father's Day and seeing how lucky my children are to have him as their father, but at the same time, the sacrifices that he makes, the patience that he finds within himself to be that father, but to be that strong structure. Yes, he's not the authoritarian like I am, I'm the yeller in the house, but at the same time, he's still that grounded force. And watching my children learn from him the way that they do. I mean, my daughter is honorier than stinking strong because of him. My son, it's like, the strength that he gets from being secure within himself, he gets from his father. And what an honor. And it's not, did I make this happen? No, we've sacrificed together. Yes, we're still together, but you don't have to be, right? You don't have to be living amongst each other to have that connection. But it really definitely shows, we talk about mothers a lot in our culture now, but we don't talk about fathers. And it's, I'm so honored to be a mother, but at the same time, I am so honored to be a mother that I have somebody standing right next to me, because if we don't stick together, him and I, those gangsters will outnumber us. So it's better that we figure out a common ground and we make it happen. It's not easy, but there's a lot of things that I've had to compromise in within, even that we're equal in a lot of our beliefs and our structure and how we want to live our lives. but we've compromised. We found patience. We found forgiveness. We found, okay, we might not necessarily agree on this, but let's just keep moving forward, because before we know it, we're going to be on another stage, right? We're on this stage. How do we get through this? We might have not done very good at that stage, but we got to keep going, because the next stage might be even harder. And looking back at a 22 and a 19-year-old, it's not been easy. It's not been for the faint of heart. And
we've been through all the phases by that age, and it really, the duality of it. It's so good to have partnership, kind of like we talked about just here. Birthing this show, we want to have the ability to bounce off each other and to use each other's strengths and support each other, and then watch each other shine. And so much like that, with parenting. And yesterday was great having my kids there, all my brother's kids and everything. So being an uncle, taking the little boys fishing this weekend a bunch, and then my girls came. They made birthday cards for everybody. They made dessert for everybody. Everybody
awesome.
Gets to take care of each other. And it really reminds me of a good story that I got from one of my Chumash aunties. We're visiting an uncle up in North Fork Mono tribe, and so Ron up there, he would always say like, "Oh, that fire is just the mischievous offspring of Father Sky and Mother Earth," and they would follow behind him and sprinkle water and resources on his trail. So, I always said, having fire in your family, then, it's kind of like having that drunk uncle or some relative that's tough to deal with. But, having, Father Sky and Mother Earth kind of following around. And that's sort of the thing, fathers and mothers really bring the separate things. We're telling some good stories yesterday, of just like, when you go get a ride home in Dad's car from elementary school, there'd always be a snack bag. One kid reached in there, she grabbed an apple, and we had knives in every door, and I have axes. I have all the things to go all the places, all the times in my car. So the 10-year-old, 8-year-old, she's using this 6-inch knife to cut her apple, and her little friend's like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And the other one's like, "I got one in my door too." So, they at a young age, Dad, I gave them lots of room, got them knives to use in the kitchen, taught them how to use tools, how to, surf, how to fish, how to do all these things that, really, like you said, make up a huge part of who they are. And it's really great to watch them as they start to get older. Both my kids just got jobs now, and they're,
mine too.
"Hey, Dad, I can't come over tonight. I got to work." Or,
Josh, can I give you a word of advice? It's so honoring to see your kids have a job, but that work thing gets in the way of our fun.
Yeah,
I hear that. I feel like my biggest struggle right now is the fact that my kids are responsible.
Yeah, my kid's like, "I can't take a holiday off."
Yeah, you're like, "Mom, I can't.
I'll work in the morning. I'll come over after."
I'm like, "Where are you?" "At work." "Oh, I kind of forgot about that." "You darn it, why are you still working?" It's like,
we're trying to get off work, and they're just getting into it.
It's time to go play now, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I know.
I'm proud of them. And, I think that it's really great to always kind of honor that, it's really like a holy union, just, having the masculine and the feminine balancing. And we each have that, like every warrior has a little, woman, and every woman has a little warrior in them, the yin yang. So I always think there's great balance to all those things. It doesn't always follow those gender lines, but it's always follow that. And it also roles.
It doesn't always have to be blood too, because it is so awesome to look at our structure, Clint and I, okay? We look at our structure of our kids, but at the same time to really realize who these kids are. It wasn't just us, and the ability of who Clint and I are is also where, again, I am so honored to share parenting right with him, because it was, learning what his family taught our family, what my family taught our family, what our community taught our family, what his, growing up community taught our family. I'll never forget the time when, I first started dating him, and, here he is, this big old gringo, right? Big old white boy, football boy. And, we're a very competitive sports family. My grandpa was a Giants and a 49er fan. 'Tis the reason why I don't like your Dodgers t-shirt. But, but he was also a diehard Bearcat.
Roots.
We were Bearcats. And it was almost like a religion in our family. I know that's the blue color still off in my world.
I guess it's here.
But, I had to sacrifice blue when my son became a bulldog at Hancock. He had blue, and I used to think about that. But to understand, like my family took Clint in. You know, here my grandfather was, when Clint was a Raider fan, you know, so that was like wrong side of the bay, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, he
It's a
took him in
rivalry.
and to see what we have taught my children now, I see my husband who has learned from my grandfather, you know, and it's, you know, that is something culture and honor in the long-term relationship. But it was so much of us, and being a part of our community also is who made us the parents that we are.
Yeah.
This community that you and I live in, look at what we could do with our children. And
Every
I
day's
love
beautiful. Every place is beautiful here.
I
There's
love
so
the
much
influence.
abundance.
The influence.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. And honestly, like, where am I going with this conversation is the fact that what we've experienced in our culture in California, especially, but throughout the country this last weekend, right? It was, I'm not even going to talk about what transpired because it's a political thing and I'm not going to go there. But my children, I was super proud of them because they see it for what it is. Everybody has a right to speak up, right? Nobody has the right to hurt another human or hurt environment or hurt, you know, somebody
knock
else.
someone else down to build yourself up.
Knock
Never
somebody else
works.
to build somebody out. But at the same time, it's like listening and having a conversation with my kids. It's like there's so many people in this community that are diverse in where they stand, right? How do you stand so firm and say, this is who I am, I'm not going to talk to you, or this is how it's got to be? We got to find a mutual ground to be able to bridge this gap that we have, and to see my children who have been exposed to every walk of life, every culture, every political spectrum, and going, this is in my home, in our home, this is how we are. This is how we're going to live. This is how our structure is going to be. It's going to mutate because the world mutates. The nature mutates all the time. But overall, boundaries, discipline, and structure is going to stay the same. But when it comes out to culture things, we have to figure out how to communicate and stop living life based upon only knowing what you've been told. What about getting out and getting involved, getting out and being a part of your society, you know, and understanding how each thing rolls? We are talking right now in the North County about letters being mailed out from our county about the water protests. People don't understand what that even means, right? So they think that they're going to protest the GSA or the structure of the water. No, what you're protesting is the fee that was agreed upon by that board, right? But nobody even understand what the protest means, right? We're going to talk about protest. People don't know what protest means. Protest is to stand up against something that has been wrongly done, or you don't agree with it, right? So to protest, and that was Prop 218. People, please Google that. Prop 218 gave us the right to protest fee structures or misformed structures that we have in our government system, right? The way that our water board or the basin management was formed, that's done. That's been voted on. That happened when you voted for your board of supervisors. Yeah, you voted on your board of supervisors. You know, is it legal? Well, the court of law is the only way that's going to be able to determine that, right? Personally, I can't afford the law. You know, law is not black and white. It's all it's green and who can afford it. But at the same time, Prop 218 is your ability to protest that fee. And so, you know, we're going to talk about protesting, but I just need to put that out there because what are we protesting? Like, this is the constant conversation. This weekend it's what it is. It's still going on. You know, do we sit here and talk about the systems that we are? We vote, right? We vote for things that we have in our system. But at the same time, it's also the way we live culturally, spiritually, disciplining, understanding the dollar that you have or the change that I have. How am I going to spend that? Where am I going to put that money? How am I going to live my life? Every single day and every single step that I take is a political act. Farming, food, the way we treat our bodies, the way we treat the environment.
And that's
stand
what we've
up
been saying.
by the way you spend your money.
Yeah, you know, you don't really have to say what you're against. You got to say what you're for. And I think that's what protesting means to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm against certain things, but what am I for? And that's how we move that conversation forward. Because when you just butt heads and you're just kind of going,
Where are we going?
Straight against something without sort of that direction or, sort of reasons or cause, then it becomes a slippery slope and you don't know what you've won. And you don't know when you've won. And that's what I think something that I think seeing a lot of protesting going on, nationally, where people are starting to rally a voice, but what are we going to rally behind or who? And how do we, put what we want in place? If it's not what it is, how are we going to do that? And I think that's one of the, sort of, I was going to say benefits, but something that's a byproduct even really of what's happening. You always have, what's sort of this, existential realism of, this presidency, this administration. How are you going to, find something in its place? So, you have to go through this process and make us look at everything. So from that, we're starting to, like you said, people maybe are going to become better, read or well-versed in what the laws are, what the culturally neighborhoods, want, what the marketplace we can, move around with our dollar. So there's a lot of ways we can bring forward what we want.
People, instead of just reacting because somebody said something, why aren't they learning what it took to get us here?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, like I said, use your voice for what you do want. Don't just complain against what exists.
Don't do something just because somebody told you to do it.
Much further.
Do it because you actually are.
That's a start, but go further.
But don't do it because you want to be a part of something. Yes, be a part of it, but actually do something about it.
Well, I think you said every step we take really leads towards that. For me, there's so much that I feel just being, Italian in America that I've related to so many of the Latinos and growing up in California from the border up, to here and sharing their language, having a ton of cultural respect and, sharing of that. I can say every day I'm doing things that is to support that community and people that are at risk or having troubles here.
Have you helped any of them become legal citizenship yet?
Could have happened. I could have done that.
I've done it.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated with not just the Mexican consulate, but the American consulate too.
Yeah.
I mean, immigration is a topic that we all can sit here and talk about, but when it comes down to it, where are our competent employment that are going to be in these systems that are going to help
navigate
the immigration issues, right?
Yeah.
And it is a big topic, but it's at the same time, it's like, look what you and I do and look at what you and I experience every single day. I could never sit here and expect a certain culture to do what you and I do. We're going to talk culture. Look at our skin color. Yeah. We're out there working with them, all cultures, right? Not just one, but at the same time, where does that
I don't want my culture to be devoid of the diversity of who's here and why they're here, and what people know or what people bring. I mean, that's what it's about, is like, what can we share and combine? And that's something that I think I've seen so graciously done, by really a lot of indigenous, folks and people I know. I mean, so much has been cast against them on this continent, and so many other people that have been brought here and things. The people that have been the most sort of, prejudiced against or fought against really have the most graciousness in how to move forward as a whole. And I think that's what we really have to see, is what does this whole look like? It doesn't look like one piece of pie, controlling or dictating other things. It's a huge pie with everyone involved where you're at. And I think that, just having our family not have been long ago immigrants. There's so many great stories and things lately of people just saying, like, you complain about, where people are coming from, and then people go home and they try to look up their ancestry, where they're from.
Yeah.
So
3 years ago,
it's a lot more to really comprehend there.
2.5 years ago, I had a group of individuals that came here on work visas, and the work visa didn't match the work that they were assigned to. Yeah. So, but it was because who can tell seasons, right? I mean, they put them on a seasonal work visa, and they needed to stay longer, right? And so we needed to be able to.
The marketplace demanded something more.
Exactly.
And commerce doesn't want to slow down for that.
We spent months training, how this group of workers, do we get new ones? Well, we didn't have time for that crop to get new ones, to get, the food safety stuff. There's all this, right? This training that went in. And I'll never forget, I sat for 3 weeks calling immigration attorneys to help me throughout the state of California. Okay. The one that actually answered more questions was right here in Paso Robles, answered more questions. And we talked about, all of it. We talked about the way that the work visa program was set up, the H-2 program, the way it was set up, and then also DACA babies that were born here. Or no, sorry, they were brought here as babies and then lived their whole entire life. Naturalized their life. And I will never forget, 2.5 years ago, he was like, you can put me on retainer, but there's literally nothing I can do because our system is not equipped to be able to fix this. And I said, what do you mean?
To discern.
Yeah, you can't. I'm like, we need them long. We sponsor, no. He's like, there's no system. There's literally no system.
As soon as they hit a date, they're going to be out of.
And I'm like, so who's in charge of making sure they're going back? Like, he's like, there isn't anybody. Yeah. He's like, well, there's immigration enforcement. He was like, but other than that, that's it. Yeah. And I'm like, not to say, I'm like, so I'm just going to, and sadly, they were all afraid, right? They were like, then everyone's just what do we do?
Tiptoeing around something that doesn't really
exist.
Yeah.
And this is 2.5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
to
like,
live like that every day is really tough on a lot of people. I see that a lot.
Right. It's not
right on any side.
It's not.
And that's what we need to, again, force these issues. It's our hands being forced in a heavy way. So I think that at least there is more coming up. I mean, it's not a preferred way, to go through people having to, get deported or go through like the heavy-handed side.
I wish our state of California,
we can see
wanting to sue the federal administration so much. I wish they would. I mean, we all know what the system is in California, but instead of being focused on that and then sanctuary, like this isn't working, but why can't we get
reform?
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. It's like, people are saying what they're against. They're not saying what they're for. I mean, that's the thing that's wrong. That federal level is they're like, we're against this. Okay, how do you help everyone else who falls through a crack that's not exactly that?
Do you realize in the last 15 years, let's just say, because realistically, Clinton and Obama and a little bit of Bush, their immigration policies, Obama, I'll never forget. I have a story. When we were in Mexico, my favorite place of Oaxaca, and the van that picks us up and takes us to the community that we go and stay in, I get in the van and he's bumping Pitbull, okay, and in English.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and we're down in the southern tip of Oaxaca, okay, and there's not very much English speaking down there at all. And I'm like, Pitbull in English? He goes, yep. He's all,
from Miami.
No, Minnesota.
Oh,
and I'm like,
even better.
I'm like, why are you back? He's my mom and I got deported. He's all, during Obama. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you speak really good. He's like, I graduated high school. And he's like, he's like, I lived there. And I'm like, and now you're a taxi cab driver? He goes, yep. And it was, I will never forget that guy because he had the Oaxacan culture. He taught us everything, but he also was telling us about immigration in the United States even more.
Yeah.
And then he's all, guess what? He's like, the scary thing is you could never do what I did. And I'm like, darn it, I want to get lost down here and never go back. I can pick bananas and mangoes off a tree, but, and I understood that. Like, and my kids were dying laughing because they're like, Pitbull? Like, it's like, it was so much fun. But there's a lot of people in that culture that have already been sent back. And we're shocked every time we go down there is to see how many people that have been deported. But the economy is changing now down there. The economy is actually getting better. The sad thing is like better for, in the sense of getting a job.
Commercialized.
Yeah. China has made a huge investment in the ports.
Are getting chopped up for
it's awful
progress.
Yeah. The ports and the freeways and all, things that are happening in Mexico that people don't realize here. And we've done a huge already, not just this administration, but the several administrations have sent back a lot of the ones that have built and know how to run things here, where it's like, okay, if we're going to cause all this ruckus and all this disarray, let's get that reform done. Let's fix this, because we as a society cannot afford to continue to invest in people that are not allowed to be grounded here. I mean, there's so many of them that I know. I don't want them to ever go back.
Yeah, well, and people are paying in without getting full refund. I mean, this has been going on since the Zoot Suit riots. I mean, this is, over and over repeated, asking them to come here.
Yep.
Through like Abrazo Trees, through programs, work programs. And then come find later, maybe the economy changes, something changes socially. And then they are, okay, you guys are out now.
Yep.
And you're going on a train wherever this lands, right out of the, country. And so we've just been doing that over and over again. We've been doing the same thing with fire, suppressing fire. We didn't listen to any of the indigenous people, how to sprinkle the water and resources on the trail and allow fire to have a place here, to have these cultures have a place here. People that know the climate and the conditions and the history and the culture really of these lands, is so much. I love when people are like, I didn't cross the border crossed me. It's so true in so many ways that there is a lot more integration. And I've seen a lot of maps lately of the U.S. kind of dividing into these different countries or territories based on the cultural, connections that we share regionally. And I think if we had more regional pride and we kind of understood this country a little bit, more intimately, because I feel like so much now I can see we just have this settling culture settled on top of these lands that have been here for eons and eons, and we killed all the people that knew how to live here. We never really took up
or moved them.
Those things. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that have happened that
I have that.
We
same
have
story
to unpack
too.
that. Yeah,
I grew
I'm
up
sure
in Pass
family.
Rebels, and on the east side, and we were always country, right? Grew up playing in the Ware River, and it's crazy to think that I'll never forget when my mom and dad got the letter in the mail that they were, eminent domaining a percentage of the property because they were moving the city limits, and we became city instead of country. Yeah. Right? The border got moved, and I became illegal because I was still country, even though I was living in the city. Yeah. People don't realize that there's certain things you can do in the country, in the county, then you can't do in a city. Have a farm. Well, you cannot have a farm in the city.
A ton of different regulations.
Yes,
from
changes.
County to city. Yeah. In this area for sure.
So see, I'm an immigrant. But I'm also an immigrant because my husband moved me from Paso to Templeton. Yeah. So I immigrated to Templeton.
You left your lands, yeah.
So, you
integrated. It's more integrated. And that's all we need to see is integration. That is just such the name of the game for me. As kind of doing what I do every day and stuff, I just keep telling people, in the first business card I ever made at like 21, 22 was like natural resource manager, because we're just moving resources around. And people, it's sort of the same thing. We migrate, we move. The movement is the engine of the universe. So you got to have high, low pressure. You have to have, sun, day and night. You got to have all these things, to create energy. And so we just seem to be banging our head against the wall in so many ways. And I'm just hoping that this might be the last time that we sort of run into all these walls, because we're running dead on into them. The way that this is brought up, actually, nobody really has proper responses. So anyone can kind of weigh in, and everyone's kind of seeing the government, for the people, by the people, a little bit more on a center stage, where it was probably farther removed in so many ways from us over the years and decades. So I think that going forward, let's say, what are we for, especially in your region, especially in that area? And it doesn't have to match exactly these other regions. We can have states' rights. We can have states' rights.
Isn't that why we're the 50 states? Well,
it's
50 states and all the territories.
Yeah, that I feel we can do things better socially, economically, environmentally, especially when we stratify those decisions or put those decisions through that stratification of those things. Yeah. And think about, does this have a benefit economically, socially, environmentally? Because there's so many things socially too. Like, what would we do without tacos in this place? Like, what if we didn't have tacos to eat? I think that would be fundamentally difficult.
Tortilla. I want a tortilla. That's a comfort food.
Yeah, that's what we made yesterday. Like I said, we had all this fish from the ocean, and that was our vehicle yesterday. And some days it's bread. Like we did the Spanish night We use a ton of bread that was baked right here. We use, so many different ways to get.
So that is
Our
definitely a
sustenance,
cultural
right?
difference in our family, which is still my husband still picks because in our home, my grandparents' home, and my mom too. Like
You
it
make
was
tortillas.
Well, everything you make comes with the tortilla, right?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget my Henri White husband said, "Can I have a fork?" And I'm like, "What do you mean you have a fork?
You got a
you just
tortilla.
you just eat it with the tortilla,
Rip it
you
up
know,
and bite it."
And then and it's kind of a funny thing because comfort food, a snack, right? It was for all of us growing up. My great grandma used to make the best homemade flour tortillas
Oh, nice.
on a
Yeah.
cast iron
Comal.
griddle.
Yeah.
And a little roller that I still have. But okay, so for a snack, what did we do? We would get a warm tortilla and put butter on it.
Yeah,
you know?
butter at least. I do that like daily. Still.
Yeah, and so Clint would come over to my house and I would give him a butter tortilla and he's like, okay. I'm like, well, I have avocado. It's either butter or avocado.
Yeah,
What do you want?
yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay. The
I did peanut butter and jelly as a kid. That was
the cutest thing is when my son's girlfriend came over and he made her a butter tortilla. She's like, what is this? Mind you, she's a gringa.
Yeah.
And she's like,
He's like,
she's
"You
like,
little
what
girl
is
on you."
this? Yeah. And she's like, oh, that's good. I want more. Well, I mean, of course, because she has Strauss, salted butter
Yeah,
too. I mean, you
yeah.
can eat a block of that by itself because it's good.
that's
Just
the
what it
things
is.
You should be eating the whole things, right?
And she's like, wait. And then she's like, and you guys eat with tortillas? And he's like, yeah, my mom, this is like my mom. We always have to have tortillas in the refrigerator or in my little ceramic
always,
bowl. It's
always.
like I have to have tortillas. It's just
we grew
to
up
me, I don't
eating
even.
lobster in Baja, so that's how I eat my lobsters with tortillas, butter, and beans.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, it's funny because it's when you know what a good tortilla tastes like. There's nothing better,
Yeah.
And it's a culture thing, and it's it's comfortable. But yes, look at us all: tacos, burritos. I mean, there's so much to this.
Yeah.
This culture influence. That
Well, we're
we've had.
integrated whether we like it or not, and everybody learns to deal with it socially,
Mm-hmm.
economically, environmentally. And so how do we really just kind of look for optimizing that relationship or
Right.
that, that's kind of where it's at. And I think there's been so much floating around, even saw like Selma Hayek and a few other people put out some really good notes on immigration videos of saying like, look at even just back to Bush and Reagan talking about the relationships with, all of the Mexicans, especially like, the Bushes being in Texas and having Mexicans in their family, like they really had a, understanding of that cultural tie because you're right on the border.
I know that a majority of the immigration originally was Mexicans, but do you ever wonder why when we say immigrations, we always bring up the word Mexican? Because immigration is not just Mexicans.
No, like I said, my whole family, the Irish side, the Italian
no,
side.
but even now, like now,
But
though,
there's
like
so many people
people
came
don't
through
realize that
in
there's like
waves.
so many other cultures still
Yeah.
that are here that came in that are immigration issues. But I'm just because it always goes.
Well, I think when we live
What
in the
happened to
border
Guatemala?
states-
Guatemala is like right. What about El Salvador and Costa Rica? And,
Yeah.
I actually think there's more Americans now in Costa Rica.
Yeah,
than,
Costa Rica really-
I have family that's trying to move to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
So
They're
I'm-
a big expat place for
it
sure.
is, and
Yeah.
it's so, leave your problems here. Go enjoy Costa Rica. Don't
Pura
change.
vida.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't change
Americans
it.
aren't going to Costa Rica to make it American.
Yep.
They're going there to live the pura vida and to understand that culture. And I think that that's something that, again, really regionally, is reflective of where you live, what's really predominant. We have so much here on the West Coast where, you have all the people that came from Asia, you have all the people who've come from Mexico, and then you have so many people that just end up in California being a huge economy that are from everywhere. And
So there was a time. So the people that we go and visit when we go to Oaxaca, we had a chance. We were all sitting in Puerto Escondido on the beach watching
Yeah.
big old waves, right? And it was sunset. So
Yeah.
in Mexico, you go to the
Mexican
shore.
pipeline.
You go to the shore and watch the sun boil, right? And so I'll never forget having this conversation because the young girl who was there with us, she was 17. And I mean, she's so curious, right? I mean, my daughter was 17 at that time. She was so curious. She wanted to move. She wanted to come to America. And it became that conversation. And my daughter's like, why? Why would you want to leave here and go there? You know, and we're there on vacation,
Yeah.
right? She's working and she's,
Yeah.
you know, teaching us. But it was crazy to me because at that age in her life, she's like, you realize the majority of us are naturally migratory. We want to keep moving,
Yeah.
right? And she's like, most humans are, but
Yeah, following
you know,
the
it's like,
seasons, following the
you know, she's
resources
like,
for
but
sure.
all of a sudden we became categorized or
Fixed.
you know, put in a border, right?
Yeah.
And so she's like, but I'll be honest with you. She's like, what is the curiosity's opportunity and the diverse of change of what you have? She's like, what do you guys like about Mexico? Is because we're all the same. It's all, you know, it's all our culture.
Yeah, it's
You
very
don't go to Mexico.
authentic.
Yeah, you don't go to Mexico and
Most experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
most
like-
people really look to America for freedom. So.
Yeah, and it was
as a dream.
It was an opening of, you know, realizing like at my stage of life, yeah, I could be in a culture like Mexico and simplify my life, right?
Yeah.
But when you're young and you're trying to build and you're trying to grow and, you know,
America has lots of
there's-
opportunity and
there's
freedom,
this,
for
there's
sure.
this, you know, neon lights that say opportunity, come here. Of course, why wouldn't they be curious or have that temptation
Drive, yeah.
that drive to migrate,
Yeah.
you know? And so, you know, animals, we all migrate, and that's what, you know, movement
I think
of
that's
soil.
a huge conversation.
Yes.
I think migration to me has really been ruined, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so many people would, even from the coast inland here, you know, if you look back to all the tribal ways, it was just, you know, you follow where the resources are and you
Yep.
get the best of everything.
Yep.
You know, where do you want to be when? And there's people, they do it all the time. I've had clients and it's like, oh, they're a snowbird or they're whatever. They live,
Yeah,
you know,
Arizona.
somewhere cold
I went to
and
college
they live
in
somewhere
Arizona.
warm, you
Yeah.
know, half the year.
all winter time when I was in school, I was dealing with snowbirds. There were everybody from the northern part of our country. They all come to Arizona because
Yeah.
it's too cold up there.
Yeah.
And or too, they, you know,
Vice versa.
but it's also too, Europe has this too. Like, you know, the northern hemispheres, they struggle in resources to keep their people warm.
Yeah.
So they incentivize them to travel, to move, to go live somewhere else for 6 months.
Yeah.
So that you can be in a different culture so they don't run out of resources. Right.
yeah.
So, you know,
There's
there's
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
reasons for it.
that. And
Yeah.
so I think, I mean, and the sad thing is, Josh, look at you and I are just in here having a conversation, casual conversation about this, but we pay people to figure this out. How many consultants and studies and all this stuff that we have been paying for in our culture, in our lives to figure this out. And yet here we are,
Yeah.
you know, and that's
Where
something
some
needs
of those
to
places
change.
have tradition that allows them to follow. Like, what did their grandmother tell them to do? They're still doing those things. They're still collecting those resources at those times, or they're still having the festivals or the celebrations when they need to, you know, appreciate that abundancy. And I think that's what has been lacking in America is like, how can there be something that is really uniting and over such a large space and over such a big, you know, experiment of, you know, people from everywhere in a melting pot. There's no real country that has opened its borders as much as America over time and really fought for that ability to say, I mean, there's so many presidents standing in front of the Statue of Liberty over the decades saying, hey, bring us all those masses and tired and people that really need opportunity. We're going to work this out. And then all of a sudden, money has really supplanted almost all religion and belief in our country that, hey, come here, make money, but don't be yourself and bring that outside.
Yeah.
You have to hide
But it's
that at
also-
home or keep it in
you
a
hit on
small
it too, is resources.
neighborhood.
Resources are changing us.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the cost of everything is changing us too. And why? It's, you know, we have systems that are not being managed properly. We
Not
have
being
s-
optimized
They're
in
not
any
being
way.
but there's too much money going unaccounted for.
Yeah.
And there's too much mismanagement of funds that were supposed to go to fixing infrastructure to manage resources that have not been.
Yeah, and that's where commerce and regulation are on the same scale. If you have too much regulation, it kills commerce. If you have too much commerce, it ruins your environment and everything that you're in. So I think money, you know, it's almost like, how can that become more of a precious resource again?
Yep.
We need your clean air, water, and food every day. How can we get those resources, you know, cheap or as close to free as possible? And that's where I want to see that clean air, water, food. Like, I love going to the ocean. saying, thank you, ocean, for dinner tonight. You know, thank you for providing for us. And thank
I
you
think
for
our problem is in that
the weather.
just you and I are different in that because most people don't think that they need to fish for their food or farm for their food.
Yeah.
They think they need to go to the store. And I get it. But at the same time, there's where that commerce and that regulation is out of whack because why would somebody thinking getting eggs in the middle of February at $10 a dozen is expensive?
Yeah.
They don't realize that Lithuania supplied them. They don't realize that some other country supplied them.
They don't have a connection to outside.
They don't have a connection. So to me, it's like, and I'm not sitting here saying, oh, everything should be price gouged. I think that there should be some kind of fair pricing, literally fair pricing when it comes to it. When something has to travel so far to get to a grocery store shelf, where does that justify cheap?
Well, that's where you have that cultural appreciation of like, what do you eat and when?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, you know, in the certain seasons, we're not eating certain fruits, vegetables, or even meats or things because it's not the abundant season for it. And when you're, you know, holding all these crops in abundancy, like stone fruit and all those things right now, right, at the shop, you're rich in those things. You know, we're rich in mussels earlier in the year. We're rich in mushrooms in that time of the season. Right now, we're rich in being able to go to the beach and find all those things that we want. And I think that, you know, for me, again, it's following that value and just sort of reassessing a new value system. So it's like for me to go to the ocean, I get to go with my friends or my family. I get to bring my nephews. I get to, you know, have social and cultural benefits along with, you know, environment. I get to, you know, go out and get my ass moving and get around, you know, exercising. So to get your food, it's not really necessarily a, you know, Neolithic thing or like something that's sort of like outdated. It's like, wow,
so
if you can go and get your exercise and your health and your therapy and your well-being along with dinner, that's why we go.
So I have a question to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you think our system right now, and just to say the San Luis Obispo County borders, do you think our system, just say if 50% of our culture here or our population changed and wanted to, in a sense, grow their own
or eat locally,
forage their own, and catch their own,
or buy from local vendors? I think.
Do you think our infrastructure could handle it? Just 50%. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I think easily that.
I'm gonna disagree, and I'm gonna disagree only for the sake that I'm involved in the infrastructure.
Yeah,
and what I'm seeing out there, and again, you know, tying it all in: ocean, you know, land animals, row cropping.
It's a hierarchy for sure. I think that for me,
I'd say 10%.
Just moving money around in your nice car and your air conditioning house, whatever you live in, this real modern
North
life.
County, do not knock the air conditioner.
I had to put my air conditioner on the car today. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
But I really think that there's a big space there that we can catch a lot of that in if we're starting to put our money into our neighbors or into those certain ways that we can get resources. And then it moves its way up towards hunting, fishing, foraging, you know, living off the land. I mean, this weekend, we're out looking for yarrow. We were looking for sage. We're looking for mugwort. We had all these hydrosols that one of my friends just made.
Just came to Melanie.
Yeah, there's so many products that you can make just from the things on the roadsides. And
don't tell me you're going to make poison oak.
Maybe.
No,
I might do a little.
I'm not, don't let me try. I have poison oak on the back of my leg already.
One of my aunties would make a really nice ointment for it. I'll have to get you some of that. I can't remember what was in it, but it was an antidote for it.
Mugwort's
there.
Yeah, mugwort.
I rub a lot of that on when you're in it, in the trail, but it doesn't affect me too much, so I'm okay.
Lucky. I would have thought by now, but I still
down the coast, we got so much.
I might grow it like a bad weed.
You need to eat a little bit.
No, I did, and I went to the hospital.
Yeah, okay.
I got internally, and I got pneumonia.
Yeah, no, I think that, it just really kind of is who you are.
Yes.
You have to take it as it comes and deal with it.
Yes.
But I think that there's so many ways to, like I said, kind of really understand what that hierarchy is and to work within it a lot more. I mean, that's why
I'm just hoping that
this both have jobs around food and growing.
We need to stimulate this because it is incredibly.
We need to take a poll. All right, Miguel. So put a poll.
We need a poll, Miguel. We need a poll. What's the poll going to be?
Poll of the day. We need to say like how many people would be willing to either forage some of their food or medicine, or how much would they be willing to buy locally, maybe on a weekly, monthly grocery bill. I think challenging, like I said, I think there's so much that needs to come from the consumer side. We know how much you toe the line, how much you deal with the USDA, how much you make food available for people to consume.
Yep.
And now the consumers, I think, need to do some of their due diligence and say, what is a fair price? What is, the impetus of me giving this money towards this, vendor or person or business? And how does that really show some kind of value or response positively towards our culture?
We're going to put that out on the social media. Okay.
There's a lot of ways. The thing I like to look at life in is real costs. Mm-hmm. So again, that's why I always bring up that triple bottom line. Thank you, Ken Haggard, for that. He really is a great mentor and wrote that out. But it's like the economic, social, environmental benefits, payoffs to whatever you do, whether you measure it or not. If you're just looking at the dollars and cents, the single bottom line, there's going to be social costs or benefits, and there's going to be environmental costs or benefits to whatever we do. So if we look at real costs, that's where, McDonald's or certain subsidized types of foods or industries or commodities or things are not really at that cost. The extractive value of pulling out crude oil, of doing these things that we know have really hit. I know a lot of people are looking at Zach Bush, and I think a podcast there was saying the collapse was 50 years ago on the planet.
Yeah.
Or 50 years ago was the problem. Today is the collapse.
Yep.
And these systems are really, showing all
and
this.
I think that word collapse is terrifying, but at the same time,
that should be.
I see more of it as a readjustment.
It's a pivot point. Yeah, it's a pivot point.
Readjustment to the way that we all know, no matter where you are, you can't keep going on the way that we are.
Well, we know we're in a nosedive.
Yes.
And I think everybody feels it. The younger generation's more. We're growing into it. And I think that we talked about it today. A friend was like, we're kids. My mom's like, throw your trash out the window.
Right.
And dumps it. And then you're just like, wow, I never thought that was right. I was like, yeah, my whole life, I've been picking up trash all the time. Whether I had detention in high school, we had to go pick out cigarettes.
I had that too.
From the trees at the beach. But also, it always was, recycling became popular.
And what happened to that?
Lots of things came up. Well, I think reuse, right?
Yeah.
And trying to consume less or know how to redefine what these products are. I think plastic is becoming so ubiquitous in nature and our bodies and our systems that if we could go back to basket making, and there's so many great plants. Every time we're at the creek, we're seeing grasses, we're seeing sedges, we're seeing rushes. We're seeing cattails. There's so many things.
The
like
sedges are
you can make so much from cordage and clothing, and we can take this as far as we wanted to. There's even just the wool from all of our kind of burgeoning livestock industry here, where we're doing a lot more grazing. We're doing a lot more just kind of animals.
California sheepskins on for me when he came to your little pop up in Los Osos.
Yeah,
and I had him. He comes and picks up all of our hides from Crescent Valley Meats. Yeah. And is not letting. I know, and I know two others that are in this community doing that, but it's crazy.
There's room for more, is what I'm saying.
But who's doing cow hides? He only does goat and sheep.
Who's doing zebra hides? I mean, there's a demand out there for all kinds of things.
I want one.
I've seen a few.
Yeah, and but again, that's like a lost art. There's many things, lost art that we need to grab it a hold. But at the same time, it's beyond that. How do we incentivize, without it being dollars and cents, people to wake up and look and recognize the soil you're standing on, and no matter what you like or don't like, the way you are going to make an impact and you're going to change is if you fix yourself. Yeah. How are you going to move?
Always starts there.
I mean, Michael Jackson said it the best, Start by the man in the mirror. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, how do we incentivize that, Josh?
Well, that's why I think you got to look at that triple bottom line. You got to know the dollars and cents. There has to be an economic component. There has to be a social and an environmental component.
But how do we bring the economic component back? Because
that's what we're saying.
Start this new path of economic understanding.
And I think too, there's a lot to reducing the need to earn, the demands that we put on ourselves for money instead of trading money for things.
What is 40 hours now? What is that 40? Can anybody make a living working 40 hours?
We had a lot of economy exchange, But there's ways you can exchange things. And if you don't know how to do something, someone else you could exchange with to do that. And that could be dollars. That could be other products, or could be friendship. It could be so many ways that you kind of bring value to things. I think that's what we have to look at. And I think nationally, and I always love living locally,
we need to
is a
live
microcosm of what can happen around you. And I think that if you ever want to see changes go further, the more you can start at home, like you said, the closer to that center, you know, and even in permaculture design, they're always radiating out from self. How do we really look at connecting those dots? Myself with yourself, with the next self, you know, here. And there's ways to move money around. There's ways to move, you know, things just culturally expect. That's what I really wanted that pop-up to be the other night, was like an economic experience where everybody was covered for their time and expenses. But then also socially, we're able to really have value of being in a community and knowing that you can go somewhere. Like, it was always great before cell phones when we were, you know, kids, and it's like in college, hey, you go to reggae night every Wednesday at Frog and Peach. You know you're going to run into your friends. You don't have to call them. You don't have to look for them.
How did we communicate before a cell phone?
Yeah, well, you just went there. You know, you went to where the people were, and you knew when to show up.
Yeah.
And so that's what we need to find again, is community reliance, and, you know, people call it resilience. There's so many ways that
how about
there's terms.
Self.
I think it's action, and that's what we were going to say before. It's like you can replace so much money with action. Like, literally all the food that we ate yesterday, you know, was stuff we caught. You know, all of it was. It was a kayak fishing trip, a salmon fishing trip, a beach trip.
My children
to the reef.
and my husband, and just because I don't eat fish is the only reason why I didn't eat it. My children enjoyed your caught, because that, I mean, the look on their face when I walked in with that bag of salmon, Mom. But then
You're
the funny,
rich in salmon, Mom.
but the funny thing is like, I told you, my
It's
daughter's
like $50 right
my
there.
daughter's boss had just gone out that same time and didn't catch what you caught.
I mean, it's a risk.
And I'm like, she's like, oh, I can't wait to tell him when I go to work tomorrow. Like, look what I have. And I'm like, it's all about who you know.
That's why they don't call it catching and drinking; they call it fishing. You gotta put that effort in.
You gotta, So I mean, and again, there's just gifts, right? Like, and then, but at the end of the day, we as a society, as a culture, whoever we are, we have to get better. I can't. Every week you're going to hear me keep saying this, because what is coming down the pike? Laws, regulation, fees. Yeah. I mean, we can't sit here and say, scarier. I hate my car. I do. I hate driving. But what do? How do I get to where I need to get to make that dollar, to be able to get the next thing planted or the next thing moving, right? But 65-cent gas tax hitting us on July 1st. Yeah. Like, I mean, at already almost $5 a gallon.
Yeah,
like,
we're getting to peak summer.
I mean, and again, where are we as a society holding the system accountable? Like, okay, we all are in agreement. I don't want crude oil in everything I do, right? I always have. That's why I've been doing what I'm doing. Yeah. But at the same time, we don't invest in infrastructure that is going to give us a different option that we can then go. Okay, so as we said solar, but we did it wrong. We went one side versus the other. We'll incentivize this, but not this, and we're going to make this. No, we need to have systems work together to figure this out. It should be options. It shouldn't be one side versus the other. Yeah. We're a smarter culture than that. We just
need to make those connections, and that's the thing. It has to be more regional, because even if you're doing energy, you got to do that regionally.
I can't imagine
solar to hydro to all these ways that really are more effective, and you know, it just has to be.
How does the average farmer
diversified?
I mean, none of us can afford electric tractors. Nobody can afford to fix the electric tractors. You know, there's this whole thing about the recalls on electric tractors. Yeah. So we're all still on gas tractors, right? Yeah. And mind you,
diesel.
I don't want to have to use my tractor, but in order to do things efficiently, I need my tractor. Yeah. How am I going to afford $6?
We've done a lot of biodiesel and other things that can be options, and it is, as long as we find some kind of connection and benefit. Like, I love using the veggie oil from the restaurants and maybe tying those in. But again, it's become so trivial or difficult because there's not a value for it there.
There's a part in there, so just like when I'm dealing with the refrigeration. There's a part in there that the state of California, regulated against. You can't use that part. Well, then when you can't use that part because that, then you can't use it anymore because you can't afford to fix it or throw that part away and buy a whole new system because that part got outlawed.
Yeah,
I'm dealing with that right now
that's
with
difficult
refrigeration.
vehicles and
It's like if we're going to keep outlawing refrigeration and not allowing us to fix what we already have, I mean, what's the point in allowing?
Yeah, that's a really weird one too. When it's like, get new stuff. It's like that's one of the biggest problems. That's one of the biggest sinks and issues in America is they make too much new stuff.
Yes.
And so instead of doing look when Cuba really had to, rely on themselves, and they're still driving vehicles from the '60s. They never updated since that moment when things got cut off. Internationally.
Well, it's crazy.
So
my
they're still going.
Adopted child is driving my father-in-law's truck that, 1991 Chevy.
Like they used to,
no, and he can work on it, and he can find parts that are affordable and fix it. And it's crazy. Like, my car now, if it breaks, what am I going to do?
I heard people going out of state to smuggle in some parts.
Well, hello.
Thanks, Miguel.
I heard.
Really
Miguel knows
cheap
the guy, so if you need something.
in the outskirts of Nevada now.
There's like a 10% surcharge or something.
I mean, again, it's like, but again, that's where we're so disconnected.
My nursery guys having delivery vehicles every year with CARB, they're getting, vehicles they have to send out to other states if they can even get rid of them, or they have to take on
what are we
so
going to
do?
We have to make change here.
Well, that's where people
got to divert the money flow.
Yeah, I think people are so at odds, in this real national two-party thing where it's like, oh, that's from this side, oh, that's from that side, like shut it down. But really, both sides need to have critique and criticism, and so we can't take things too far one direction or the other. Like I said, knowing that things are on a scale. Yeah, one of my favorite books, Cradle to Cradle, really shows that again with like regulation and commerce on a scale, and so many things that can
oversight
be
and management balanced in their finances.
Things need to be balanced. I think that's where we're at. Things are extreme and things seem out of control because we keep hearing extreme after extreme. But how do we find that middle path?
I'm not hearing I'm feeling it. Yeah. And I'm saying I'm feeling it because
that's where peace lies.
How do I invest in my fall plantings right now?
Yeah.
Wondering how I'm going to justify that 65-cent increase a gallon. Or, these other
we need to know who's going to take it up.
Yeah.
We need to know, are people going to go to that restaurant if we are serving those foods? Are they going to come to the stand if we're having those foods available?
There's so much uncertainty.
Where are they going to go?
Yeah.
And what are they going to value? And I think that's where we need to start making these new agreements. So it becomes, how do we gather that? And that's why I think that like the protesting is that scratching the surface of people wanting to unite and wanting to rally around something. But you can see how that can get squashed. You can see how that can get taken out of, I can't even think of the word right now, but
content.
Yeah, people take it out of context. That's not was the point of people causing damage. It was the frustration of family members or community members and tons of people being
we all have our stories, right? But if you look at everyone's story, it is the actual story is the same. Things are out of it's all out of balance.
Yeah.
There is a system that I do feel is trying to balance, but how do we when so many people don't know how we got to here? Sure. We can't keep sitting here pointing the finger at this person or pointing the finger at that without looking at the person that is or system that has been at the top.
Seeing us repeating our past mistakes.
Up at the top needs to we need a new one, and it's not, and let us rebuild it, right? Let us rebuild it from the soil up and
everything
start building
starts from the bottom up better.
And getting our systems and our cultures now, familiarize what it takes and what means you need in order to have it, because there's too much disarray. People don't know what incentives and subsidies and and how commerce really works, right? The whole system of regulation. Most people have no idea that your supervisors do something, your assemblies do another, your Congress is actually who is the reason why we're paying what we're paying people.
Yeah, that's
and then the Senate is supposed to oversee the whole entire thing, but yet can they even see? And then there's the governors or the presidents, or, those are, people don't understand the level of government and how to get things done. Exactly what I said in I'm a country girl, but the city came and eminent domained me, right? Just in that right there, people don't understand city versus county law.
Yeah.
I'm sad for people when they always go, "Oh, the city of Templeton." There's nothing
Not yet.
city about Templeton yet. If there was, we'd have our own police department.
That's right.
So there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, it is about that time, and we have so much
Well, we
to
made
talk
it to
about.
the end again.
We made it to the end, but we are starting to come closer to that Independence holiday. Maybe we, stimulate this conversation and start getting people
moment
in
for reflection.
to
I like it.
declare our independence, of understanding we need to be independent first,
Yeah.
live within our means, live within our own systems, and then let's all work
Yeah.
better
What does America
together.
mean to you where you live?
Mm-hmm.
And America looks different in all the places that it is, and that's really, like I said, people making some kind of agreements is really what's going to make a difference.
Yep.
And it's got to start from the bottom up instead of the top down. You can't wait for things to come that way. I mean, we've really learned some hard lessons like that. So I really would love to see it happen in that sort of, organic groundswell of people really finding
We
some
don't
kind
need
of
to fight.
consumer confidence,
Yeah.
consumer, knowledge, just really some kind of sharing and education of what we're doing, or just care and concern for what is good and right. Like you said, you can feel your way through most of life. You don't have to, read books, do, certain degree programs and things to know what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And that's where people need to find that foundation and that base. And that's why I love starting with food, the soil, dirt, the air around us.
So much
that's
better.
full circle.
It's very full circle, and you
See you next time.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
don't forget. I wanted to announce really first
Please.
thing, naturesneighbor.net. We have a
Oh.
website now.
All right, for us.
Yes, and so
Nice.
naturesneighbor.net is our home turf website that will have all of our previous podcasts up there.
Okay.
Also, sponsor options are there.
Yeah,
So
we
there's a
gotta
bunch
reach
of
out.
and you can actually email and get directly to myself. I got to get your email on there. But I've been working hard. I've been
Yeah.
laying low because I wasn't well. So I worked a lot on that. And so also too, our apparel, you can see I have one,
Yeah.
but we need to get the new logo that has Josh on there as
I need
well.
to get one of those.
And you need some t-shirts.
Support us,
and,
yeah, and
you got,
support
I walk
our
around
neighbors.
with a backpack and come on and be a part.
Yeah, we
I
love
am
the
better
outreach
now.
and
I'm going to reach
input.
out to all the people. We've had quite a few people that have reached out that want to be a part of us and
Great.
come in, or have us come out. So know that I am here. I just was laying low this last week. You
See,
guys can
it's
hear
growing.
it.
It's sprouting.
I sound like a
Change is
chipmunk.
happening.
Yes, change is happening, and
So-
I'm excited to bring it all in. So we'll be back next Monday, 5:00 live, and
Yeah.
then our recording. Yeah, Miguel has a funny smile over there. I'm wondering what he's smiling about, but
Hooray for Miguel.
I know. Have a
Ready
good
for
week,
us?
you
You ready
guys.
for...
Nature's nature.
Oh, that's what he's
naturesneighbor.net.
doing. Naturesneighbor.net. There it is.
Okay.
That's my new domain. That's our website, Joshy.
Okay.
You know what I think makes America, what makes America America?
What?
Shopping local, like Crescent Valley Fine Meats.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the sponsors of the show.
Yeah, I forget about that
Crescent
part. I'm
Valley
not a
Meats.
good marketer.
Buy them too.
Yeah,
Crescent
CrescentValleyMeats.com. Yes, my website's turned off right now because we're doing an awesome inventory. I'm gonna have some beautiful
Yeah, I'm going to buy some meat
sausage.
from you
Sausage. I have
for our next
quail.
pop-up.
When we all need to get back into eating, these
Oh.
ranged animals, right? It's
Yeah,
quail.
deer, rabbit, and quail. And like I said,
But
everything in
we
the
raise
ocean.
the Katuniks,
So it
you
tastes
guys.
good
Those
here.
things are huge. You want to talk about a stuffed, beautiful quail,
love a
and then I
grilled
also
quail.
have quail eggs. Like they're literally coming out of my
Yeah,
ears.
okay.
So CrescentValleyMeats.com. You can order it all directly there. You can pick it up at Nature's Touch.
Nice.
Or just know that we have a delivery system that goes all the way south to San Diego every week. We have multiple delivery spots throughout that, and also we go north every other week. We go all the way up to Auburn. So
Making it easy for the people.
Order directly on CrescentValleyMeats.com website, and then also Nature's Touch Nursery and Harvest.store. home turf, motherland, and
You there? It's ice cream season. Come through.
Oh my gosh, we got a fresh batch of lemon mascarpone.
Oh, nice. That one's
cookies
good.
and cream. Oh, we got peach cobbler. We got.
If you still have churro flavor.
Oh,
I'll
you
still-
have the
I'll go.
churro.
I'll
yeah.
still go down there for that
yeah,
churro.
Yeah, Miguel loves the churro. You
That's
know,
a good one, yeah.
No, and what we're also doing is
Canela.
root beer floats. We're also doing, because of all the fresh fruit, right? There's nothing better than one scoop of vanilla with peaches. Just
Oh,
yeah, So that's kind of that's the
Now
thing
I'm
that's
hungry. I
going.
think
Yeah.
it's that time. Go get your dinner.
Let's go do it, guys.
See you next time.
Alrighty, thank
Thank
you.
you.